On this episode of Second Gear Autocross Car Reviews, we cover a 1999 BMW E36 M3. This particular example has been purpose-built for the SCCA class of STU, or Street Touring Ultra. Following the conclusion of the 2015 season, this vehicle has been reclassed to STR. The most significant modifications to this car come in the form of suspension, thanks in part to a AST 4100 single adjustable coilover kit, camber plates, various polyurethane bushings, and chassis braces, and a larger sway bar. This M3 also received weight reduction via recaro pole position seats, a lighter exhaust system, and a lightweight battery. The brakes have also been upgraded with the help of pads, rotors, lines, and fluid enhancements. A touch of power is added through an intake filter, headers, exhaust, and a tune. All of these modifications were then tied together with 255, 40, 17 Hankook RS3 V2s mounted onto 17 by 9 inch wheels.
The M3? So let's go over things we liked about it, I guess.
Okay.
Not everybody else.
Okay, let's talk about how it sucked.
Yeah,
Alright.
proof that this was the worst car we ever drove.
Let's talk about what we liked. Silence, crickets,
Yeah.
chirping in the
Yeah.
background.
Yeah, so it's a
E36 M3.
E36
E36 chassis ran from 1995 to 1999.
yeah
It's the 1999.
set up in STU trim basically.
It's set up in STU trim. Mostly suspension, a little bit of power, brakes. Oh, it also has some weight reduction. It has recaro pole position seats, fixed back fiberglass seats.
Seats were awesome.
They
Yeah.
are nice.
Seats were
Seats and the harness.
Yeah.
Yes.
Schroth 4-point
Yeah.
harness, which that one's kind of, I mean, it's not that difficult, but it's kind of nice in that it anchors itself to the driver's side seatbelt, and then the rear seatbelt's in one point on the left side. All you have to do is just
Right.
buckle like a normal seatbelt.
You only have to do one bolt
Right.
Yeah.
to add the buckle, and the rest of it goes into factory points.
Super cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
cool.
very cool, very
Yeah.
adaptable.
Really good setup. Oh, in that regards, the seats, pretty much any other car other than mine. I'm a short guy and like short arms and short legs.
Yeah.
It was kind of far away.
Yeah, I can see
Ah.
that. Yeah.
Like I padded up with like extra padding and
Yeah.
made it better. But even then, it holds you really well.
Oh yeah, it holds you.
So-
Great.
Yeah.
I actually
Well,
would like it maybe just a hair bit more forward also.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I'm fine with that position. I like to sit pretty darn close though.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if a lot of that has to do with, again, and that's something that I don't see in just cars generally that I wish was in every car, is like a tilt, or a telescoping wheel.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just
Tilt
like
and telescope.
Yeah, I'd love to see just the wheel just come closer
Yeah.
to me, as opposed to having to like kind of move to
Kind of a
far
knock.
back.
I mean, it's a 1999. Okay, however, it's a BMW M3, so you would think at the time that's like a $45,000 car,
Right.
Yeah.
and you don't have a
In
telescoping
1999,
wheel.
yeah.
I thought-
Yeah, and you don't have a
It
telescoping
doesn't
steering
even
wheel.
tilt?
No.
Yeah. I thought
perfect.
do we want to go
Yeah.
ahead and knock the big bad thing out of the way right now, since we're on the subject of the steering wheel?
Of the the school bus steering.
Yes.
Yeah.
If that car had one big fault that was pretty glaring,
Yeah.
the steering ratio is
So,
not good.
Pretty fantastic. Oh,
Slow.
I'm sorry. Sorry, we're not. Yeah,
So slow.
yeah it's slow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was almost as bad as the SRT4 being front wheel drive.
Yes,
Not that
It
bad.
was pretty close.
it was
Wow.
pretty
for
single.
me, it was worse than that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow!
Well,
Slow ratio.
Yeah, on this,
It can be a problem. You
So
know,
that's-
on a tight element. But I mean, it handled great. I love the front grip. I mean, it just turns in like a car that weighs a third less.
yes,
You know, and the rear grip. I mean, I could kind of steer it with the throttle. I was just loving it out there in that.
Yeah.
it was maybe a touch too oversteery for
I
me.
agree with that. But it was easy to control after it
Yes.
starts sliding. Like,
I-
you can manage to like keep it in line.
Yes,
and it's worth noting
The-
that it's on it's on coilovers, so
You can
you adjust that
change
for
it, yeah.
preference. It's
Yeah,
not
sure.
It's not rock solid. I mean, obviously in this
alignment
class,
that you can fix with alignment
yeah,
and coilover.
Yeah.
do a little
You
bit
can
of
different
do a little bit of
spring
toe,
rates.
little bit of toe in to help the rear grip.
You can,
a
yeah.
little more
Mhm.
camber.
Towing on the rear.
You
with
can
that
adjust
one, yeah.
the adjust the coilovers. So
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's the nice thing about this class. It gives you that option of
Right.
adjustability. I mean,
So how about power?
I thought it was perfectly adequate. I didn't think it needed any more or any less.
What a great way to put it. I was gonna say it's not the kind of power development
Mm-hmm.
that I like, but it's what I will openly recognize as is the probably best or the good
It
kind,
is. It's
which is
smooth.
smooth and lots of mid-range.
Mid-range torque, not too much at the low end. Like the SRT4 just makes torque right now,
Yeah.
and you hit the gas and it's like tire smoke.
Overcomes the tires.
Right.
A lot of power. Like almost felt like too much power. Like
Too much
talking
power.
about oversteer.
Contributing.
Like
Yeah.
getting into the slalom, and it was a bit touchy.
I can see
But
that. It had a great throttle response.
yeah.
The only thing I'll say is I felt like it didn't have quite the top end I like in a
Right.
car. But again,
On some autocross courses, I think more power would certainly help. The right amount of more
Top
power.
end.
Yeah, just more power in general. I mean, I don't know how much more, but more power might help on the right.
Mhm.
I think you even commented, Tavis, that you would have liked maybe a little bit more power.
There's places where you could use it.
But you did qualify with, you think on this course it might not matter, but you could,
Yeah,
as,
that's
as a
what
pure
it might,
autocross, as a
yeah.
pure autocross car, you'd like a little more power for make
Yeah,
a wish
the
list.
course
Yeah.
that we set up there is really tight.
Right,
Yeah.
I mean, really tight.
right.
So much so that I think it was a disadvantage for the more powerful cars. But
potentially.
It had I think the best element of seeing its power was, well, one probably, but this also had to do with how it could take things under stability type situations. Coming out of the Chicago box, it gave you good opportunity to roll in the throttle, but depends on how composed the chassis was coming out of
Right.
I thought that
Now
was
that
coming up the
that
hill.
was off camber. That
Yeah.
was coming over the crest of a hill, and
Right.
you could upset the car a little bit with
That
the
sharpest
power
section
right
coming
there.
back up the
I
hill,
think
you could
going
use a little power.
the tight corner.
Yeah.
Right.
But
Well,
that
you're
part, I
so
did
low
feel
in
like
the
it has
RPMs,
enough
too.
low end power.
Yeah.
Right.
It sort of does. Yeah. It's sort of,
And yeah.
I think if it had had much more, though, you'd be going sideways, coming off of that
Yeah.
corner, trying to get up the hill in a hurry.
I think that the one place on the course that exemplified what that car does extremely well was going across the start finish. You exit out of like a tight spot, and it's right in that mid-range grunt, so it throws you across the start finish, and then there's like the little kink,
Yeah.
and then it goes into the big sweeper.
Right.
And it was a good example of all that mid-range power throws you along, and then right about where you're about to get to the top end where it falls off, you get to use that really good front end bite to just left, right, and then or right, left, I can't remember. And then
Left,
in,
right.
and then again on the brakes in that big good sharp turn in gets you into that big sweeper really well. And then you go and you ride that sweeper, and that's where all that
Little trail brake.
Yeah,
and
and
it
it's-
just oversteers right in.
Yeah.
It just pulls into the corner
and
instead
it's
of pushing it.
that huge grip, which and I had originally
Yeah, lots of
coughed
power.
up the grip to
Yeah.
big good tires, great suspension, and I do think that is a contributing factor. But
They're not even good tires, really.
They were the V2s.
Well,
right?
yeah, I mean, they're
They're
good tires, but
Yeah,
they're
they're damn
hand-cooked
good.
RS3 V2s. Fair play. They're probably the bottom of the pack of the tires we talked about during our tire segment.
so.
Apparently, grip is a common theme. I mentioned in three ways. One, it has nice turn-in. I like the turn-in. I thought good, just overall mechanical grip, but also good mid-corner and exit grip.
Yeah,
yes,
So yeah, I mean, grip, definitely a positive.
it's very balanced. I mean,
Yeah.
you can,
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really balanced.
it's kind of like I would say if you like a Miata, you'll probably love this car.
right.
It's very similar to that, or a lot of really neutral.
And the E36 chassis is fairly narrow, so it's got not to the same degree as a Miata, but it's got some of that same small car makes the track big factor.
Yeah.
You don't have to
Right.
steer as much going through the slalom, which is
No,
good
that's
because
not.
it's got a 30,000 to 1 steering ratio.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
You don't have to move the car as much physically. You just move your hands a lot.
Yeah.
Right.
You just need to move your hands a lot.
Slalom.
Yeah.
And the car just went.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
But okay, so that's good stuff. Bad. The shifter.
That's what I put down as well.
It's like
Feels-
kind of sloppy, and
I don't like when it's in gear the wiggle of the shifter not being
Yeah,
gear.
it moves around.
But yeah, I think it's a BMW thing.
I've worked
I
on
think
it.
they're just ropey shifters. I think they're
Well,
just
it's not stock.
sloppy and
I've
oh my
been-
god, so it was worse before.
Yeah,
Dude,
potentially.
Oh, man.
I've done a short shift kit. There's also a piece you can do that connects the short shift to the shift linkage. It's essentially just a metal piece. It takes out the possibility. Yeah, so
So it's the trans.
it's the trans.
or all the linkage pieces.
It's not a new trans, so potentially again same as before.
Yeah.
If it's not totally 100% fresh,
Yeah.
maybe it could be better. But I've done for reasonable prices what I could do to make it better, and that's
Well,
what
that's what.
I don't know what else is bad.
I basically just put brake pedal and
Slalom
shifter.
and
You didn't like the slalom.
because
I didn't like the slalom on that car.
Okay.
It felt like a bit slow on everything.
Was that the steering that you're not liking about
Probably.
it?
Yeah.
Because I like the turn in, but the steering is.
On the
That's
speedway it was
separation,
fine,
yeah.
but slalom, like I don't like it.
Because
I'm
you gotta
used
move
to,
your
like,
hands so far.
you know,
Yeah.
Miata is like so small and like
Right.
I've been driving
Yeah.
that type cars,
Sure.
Right.
so the big steering was, but
I can see that.
yeah.
Then brake pads, Hawk HE10s, which actually for this application might have been not the best choice, as opposed to the Hawk HP Pluses that I do have sitting in the garage. It didn't put on all year.
I thought it stopped great. That was actually one of the things I
Well, I thought its feel was a little.
In regards
Yes.
to the
yeah,
brakes,
brake pedal feel wasn't
I
great.
was actually
Yeah.
going to say that, and I don't know what in the order of who had been, like how worn out it was when I got a hold of it. I felt that the brakes were actually not that great. I felt they were pretty spongy, and I felt like they were starting to give out on me after. Yeah, I know.
You didn't even go. Why wouldn't it last?
Yeah,
I didn't.
thought it was
I didn't feel like they were giving out at all. I mean, I've had them for full 30-minute sessions at Putnam, and they were with it.
I mean, I'm not.
That's
saying,
that's why I'm saying I think feel wise.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
didn't like
Yeah,
the
the
feel, but
feel,
it
man.
did the job.
Yeah,
Right.
I have HP Plus pads, which I think would have probably been, and HPS pads as well, which Plus probably would have been best for feel because they're a bit better. You just have to give it more pressure. It doesn't.
Yeah,
have
I didn't like
feedback
the
I
feel
want.
of them.
I
But
see.
Yeah.
frankly, it's kind of better because if the brake pedal goes lower, as long as it doesn't go to the floor, obviously.
Yeah.
But if it goes lower, then it's easier to heel to a
So-
downshift.
yeah, it's
you
sort
know?
of
Right.
More
So these are
articulate.
track only pads. These are Hawk HC10s, which are intended for track only. It even says
So it probably didn't even get up to
It
heat.
says don't drive on the street. But yeah, the feel. I mean, I have fresh fluid in there. I have stainless steel lines.
New master cylinder?
I don't know. Maybe.
Because that might, you know.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Like we're the same thing with the,
With the
Miata.
Miata,
I
yeah.
mean, it's an
Yeah,
old
that's
car.
true.
Yeah.
That's
If,
true.
if there's any,
Even if it is a BMW.
Yeah. Yeah.
any
Yeah.
component along that line, you know,
Mhm.
wherever the weak point is going to be basically where you're going to feel it. So yeah, if it's the map, you know,
Mhm.
brake
Okay.
pads or something.
My two negatives was the brake pedal feel, which that I might be able to fix. It's actually going to get the Hawk HP Pluses back on for the season, and I'll see how the feel is. The steering feel I can fix, but it's either going to be, like I said, a steering wheel or a Z3 steering rack, which isn't crazy expensive.
Now that you're an SM, you can do it legally, huh?
Right. It's just
Oh,
a matter
that's
of if it
done.
matters.
That's done. Do it.
Well, and it's to me, it's like the brake pedal. It still works. You can still get around the course quickly. It's just I don't want it to require so much input.
And that's
Yeah.
Less input will make you go faster. Too.
I agree.
yeah.
I haven't felt
you
like
can
it's
make
held me
quicker
back.
adjustments
But, yeah.
at the wheels.
I don't know if you guys felt how you felt. I didn't feel like it held me back. It might have.
I think you're used to it.
Right.
Yeah, it's
And just
Yeah.
like, you know,
Yeah.
a couple years ago, I was driving
Right.
that 328 and I got
Right.
used to it.
Right.
Very good looking car. I love
I think they
the
are.
look.
I like the look, yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny because I remember when he bought. How long ago you had that?
2008.
I remember when you bought that car, and I remember thinking that it was too plain looking, and I don't know if it's just one of those things where if you see something, it looked a little too plain,
Yeah.
and I don't know if it's one of those things where you get used to looking at something for a long period of time, and you start to like it more, but it's
Yeah.
got a very timeless look to it now.
Yeah.
I'm just
I
like,
agree. It's aged well.
yes,
Mm-hmm.
better than most cars.
It's, you know, representative of its time.
Yeah, and not in a bad way.
It's definitely been a car that has always inspired a lot of confidence. I started out with that car. That was the first car I started autocrossing in. I left it for a little while. I've been in and out of a few other cars. I think it's the car that I've been most comfortable pushing.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And you always leave sometimes a little bit there.
it's
Not at autocross.
Not autocross.
mm-mm. I don't know. It makes you feel like a badass.
Yeah.
that car.
That's a fun car.
Yeah.
It's a good car to learn on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Miata's, it's more expensive, but it's a good car to learn on.
And it's
Right.
been, I've been around that car since you got it, and it was stock, and it's been a fun little evolution. It's been fun as it kind of developed and came along, because it wasn't.
It's gotten a lot better.
Yeah, and it was never one big thing. And I think that's another integral piece of modifying anything or autocross was no one single part makes that car. Like it was all these little tiny, the model list on that car is probably like a Bible. It's just so
Possibly.
many,
Pretty long.
tons of
Possibly.
things.
Yeah.
And, but
Possibly.
it kind of needs to be because all those little tiny things come together to make it what it is, which is very, very, very good car, very well sorted. So.
See all your Roundel fans later.
Oh, wow.
See y'all later.
Oh my
See you
God,
guys later.
I hate it.
Oh my
so
Signing
bad.
off. Roundel's out.
How many times we just leave them all in there?
Right.